What would you be willing to give up if it meant becoming completely free? Not free in the political sense. Not free in the financial sense. But free in the deepest, most unshakable way. Free from craving, from fear, from the need for approval, from the grip of pleasure, from the terror of death. Free in a way that no circumstance, no person, no loss could ever touch. That is the question the Dokkodo forces you to sit with. Written just 2 weeks before death, the Dokkodo, the path of aloneness or the way of walking alone, is not a self-help manual. It is not motivational content. It is a final reckoning, 21 principles stripped of sentiment, comfort, and illusion. Each one cuts. Each one asks something radical of you. Together, they form one of the most austere and honest blueprints for living that any human being has ever committed to paper. Let us walk through all 21, one by one, and let them do what they were written to do. Principle 1. Accept everything just as it is. This is not passive resignation. It is the hardest form of clarity. To accept everything as it is means to stop spending energy fighting reality, fighting the way people are, the way the world is, the way you are. The mind that resists what is real is a mind at war with itself. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the foundation upon which every other principle rests. Without it, you are building your entire life on the exhausting project of wishing things were different. Principle 2. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Pleasure is not the enemy. The seeking of it is. When pleasure becomes a goal, when you arrange your hours around the next hit of comfort, entertainment, or ease, you become its servant. You wake up and begin chasing. The Dokkodo warns against this orientation because it produces a life that is perpetually incomplete, always one pleasure away from satisfaction that never fully arrives. Those who do not seek pleasure are not joyless. They are simply not enslaved. Principle 3. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial feeling. Partial feelings are impulses that have not been examined. A flash of anger, a sudden desire, a wave of affection that has not been tested by time. Acting on these without scrutiny is how people make decisions they spend years unmaking. This principle calls for a ruthless internal audit before any action. Feel everything, but don't depend on what hasn't been understood. The examined feeling becomes wisdom. The unexamined one becomes regret. Principle 4. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. The ego is a loud, expensive tenant. It demands constant feeding through validation, status, recognition, the reassurance that you matter, that you are special, that you are right. The Dokkodo evicts this tenant. To think lightly of yourself is not self-loathing. It is self-transcendence. It means your attention is free to move outward, into the world, into others, into the craft, into the moment. The person consumed by self-concern is blind. The person who has loosened their grip on self can finally see clearly. Principle 5. Be detached from desire your whole life long. This may be the most radical principle of all 21. An entire life of detachment from desire, not occasional detachment, not detachment when convenient, but as a sustained practice across decades. This does not mean living without want or ambition. It means not being owned by your desires. The person who burns for what they don't have is perpetually suffering. The person who can want something without being consumed by the wanting is sovereign. This takes a lifetime precisely because desire is the water we swim in from birth. Principle 6. Do not regret what you have done. Regret is one of the most corrosive forces in human psychology. It turns the past into an open wound you keep returning to, picking at, reopening. This principle does not say act carelessly and care nothing for consequences. It says, once the action is done, look forward. The energy spent in regret is energy stolen from the present moment. Make your decisions as honestly and as well as you can, then let them stand. Not because you were necessarily right, but because the alternative is to drag the past into every future moment you will ever have. Principle 7. Never be jealous. Jealousy is desire wearing the mask of injustice. When you are jealous, you are not only suffering what you don't have, you are suffering that someone else does. It is a double wound. It also reveals a fundamental misunderstanding, that another person's gain comes at your expense. The Dokkodo dismisses this orientation entirely. Your path is yours. What someone else has achieved on their path is irrelevant to what is possible on yours. Jealousy is incompatible with the kind of focused, solitary excellence the Dokkodo demands. Principle 8. Never let yourself be saddened by a separation. Every attachment ends. Every person you love will leave, or you will. Every circumstance you hold onto will shift. The Dokkodo does not say don't love. It says don't collapse when love ends or when people leave. Grief is human. Prolonged sadness over separation is, in the Dokkodo's framework, the price of too much attachment. The one who walks alone has made peace with impermanence long before it arrives. Separation is not tragedy. It is the natural structure of a temporary life. Principle 9. Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself nor others. Resentment is a poison you drink while waiting for your enemy to get sick. Complaint is its vocal cousin, a way of advertising your suffering without resolving it. Neither produces anything except the self-reinforcing story that you have been wronged and the world owes you differently. The Dokkodo cuts this off at the root. Whatever has happened, happened. What you do now is what matters. The person who walks this path has no room for the dead weight of grievance. Drop it, or it will slow you to a stop. Principle 10. Do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. This one has disturbed readers for centuries. Is it an argument against love? Against intimacy? Not exactly. It is an argument against being guided by these forces, against allowing the intensity of romantic or sexual feeling to hijack your judgment, your direction, your decisions. History is littered with brilliant people who surrendered everything to love that turned destructive, to lust that led them away from their purpose. The Dokkodo doesn't say don't feel. It says don't follow feeling blindly, especially the feelings that are most intoxicating. Principle 11. In all things, have no preferences. This is Zen and Stoicism fused into one sentence. To have no preferences is to be equally at home in any condition, comfortable or uncomfortable, praised or ignored, rich or poor, full or hungry. The person enslaved by preference is perpetually at the mercy of circumstances, thriving only when conditions align and suffering when they don't. The person with no preferences is immovable. They don't need things to be a certain way to function at their highest level. This is not indifference. It is complete adaptability. Principle 12. Be indifferent to where you live. The idea that fulfillment lives somewhere else, in another city, another country, another house, another room, is one of the mind's oldest tricks. We chase geography as though happiness is a destination with coordinates. The Dokkodo strips this illusion bare. Where you are is where you are. The quality of your mind, your attention, your discipline, these travel with you everywhere. So does their absence. The warrior's home is within. The location is irrelevant. Principle 13. Do not pursue the taste of good food. Read this principle and your first instinct may be to dismiss it as extreme asceticism. But look deeper. The principle is not about food. It is about the creeping tyranny of comfort and taste. When the quality of your day depends on whether your meal is excellent, you have handed over a significant slice of your freedom. The Dokkodo asks, can you eat to sustain yourself and be done with it? Can you be satisfied with what is available rather than what is desirable? The person who can is ungovernable by circumstance. The person who can't is always, quietly, a hostage. Principle 14. Do not hold on to possessions you no longer need. Every unnecessary thing you own owns you back. It requires attention, maintenance, protection, decision-making. The Dokkodo is merciless about this, not because possessions are evil, but because the accumulation of what you no longer need is a form of the past colonizing your present. Let it go. Not as spiritual performance, as practical clarity. The lighter you travel, the further you can go. The more you carry, the more of your energy is spent managing inventory instead of moving forward. Principle 15. Do not act following customary beliefs. This principle is about intellectual sovereignty. Customary beliefs are the ideas you inherited without choosing them. Cultural scripts, social norms, inherited assumptions about how life should be lived, what success looks like, what a good person does. The Dokkodo does not say that tradition is worthless. It says, examine it. Don't act from habit or inheritance. Act from understanding. The person who follows custom without scrutiny is living someone else's life. The person who has examined and chosen their beliefs is living their own. Principle 16. Do not collect weapons or practice with weapons beyond what is useful. This is deceptively specific but universally applicable. Replace weapons with skills, tools, credentials, or knowledge, and the principle becomes urgent for modern life. How much of what we collect, practice, and accumulate is actually useful to where we are going, and how much is the ego's desire to feel equipped, impressive, or prepared for contingencies that will never arrive? Master what you need. Use what you master. The rest is clutter wearing the disguise of competence. Principle 17. Do not fear death. Fear of death is, at its core, a refusal to accept that you are temporary. And yet everything around you, every leaf, every season, every human face you have ever loved, testifies continuously that temporality is the fundamental nature of existence. The Dokkodo confronts you with this directly, not as a morbid preoccupation, but as a liberation. The person who has truly made peace with their own death is free in a way that the person gripping at permanence never can be. Death does not need to be welcomed. It simply needs to stop being feared. Principle 18. Do not seek to possess either goods or fiefs for your old age. Plan for the future, yes, but do not sacrifice the present on the altar of a security that may never come, or that, even if it comes, will not deliver what you imagine it will. The Dokkodo rejects the idea of life as a project whose reward is eventual comfort. There is no version of this path where you suffer now so that later you can finally live. Later is not promised. Now is the only location where living actually happens. Accumulate what is necessary. Do not orient your entire existence around accumulation. Principle 19. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. This principle is often misread as cynicism toward the divine. It is something more precise, spiritual maturity. It says, honor what is greater than you, engage with the sacred, hold reverence, but do not use religion as a vending machine. Do not pray as a transaction. Do not worship as a strategy for favorable outcomes. The Dokkodo asks you to be the author of your own actions, to take full responsibility for your path, and to carry that responsibility without pawning it off onto providence or fate. Reverence, yes. Dependency, no. Principle 20. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. Honor, as understood in this context, is not reputation. It is internal integrity. It is the alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. Your body is temporary. Your honor is the only thing that defines the quality of your existence while that body breathes. You can lose everything external and still walk with this. You can have everything external and be entirely without it. The Dokkodo makes the hierarchy clear. The body is expendable. The self that keeps its word to itself is not. Principle 21. Never stray from the way. This final principle is deceptively simple and contains everything. The way is not a road on a map. It is the commitment to the life you have chosen, the principles you have adopted, the path you have decided to walk, even when no one is watching, even when deviation would be easy, even when the path is hard and the rewards are invisible. The Dokkodo ends here, not with triumph or arrival, but with a quiet, unrelenting call to consistency. Don't stray. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not when it's inconvenient. Not when it's lonely. Never. What the Dokkodo is really asking. Read all 21 together and a single, coherent vision emerges. A life organized not around pleasure, approval, comfort, or security, but around clarity. Every principle is, at its heart, a form of subtraction. Remove the craving. Remove the fear. Remove the dependence. Remove the sentiment that clouds judgment. Remove the attachment that produces suffering. What remains when all of this is removed is not nothing. It is something very close to the most functional, most free, most formidable version of a human being that it is possible to become. The Dokkodo does not promise happiness. It does not promise love. It does not promise that the path will be accompanied or comfortable or celebrated. It promises only one thing, that if you walk it, you will walk it as yourself, completely, without compromise, without illusion. That, it turns out, is rarer and more valuable than almost anything else a life can offer. The question is not whether these principles are demanding. They are. The question is whether you are willing to be the kind of person who demands them of yourself. That answer belongs entirely to you.